Well, welcome to another episode of the Brand Builder Show. I'm super excited to have you here with me today, where I will be interviewing Brett. Brett started selling on Amazon in 2019, and just a couple of short years later is preparing one of his brands for an exit. This is going to be an exit which really sets him up for the next season of his life and really gets me so pumped, because that is everything we are about. Brett is actually a member of Brand Builder University. If you look closely behind him in the interview, you'll actually see his bronze and silver awards, 10K and 100K sales awards behind him, which I kind of forgot to mention during the interview, but they are there and they really just show the journey he's been on, and that really does represent everything about what we're trying to do inside of this community with this podcast on YouTube. All of the things we're doing is really help people build brands that become assets that then help them to live the life that they really dream of. So, Amazon's not the end goal. Selling products is not necessarily the end goal. The end goal is creating something of value and building a life you love. And super excited that Brett is so well on that journey. And you're going to love today's interview. The only thing I would add before it starts is Brett is not some professional content creator, right? He is an Amazon seller, a brand builder, and working hard at doing that. So he didn't have like a super pro microphone or anything. So there's a little bit of a background noise there. We tried to get as much out of it as we can, but don't let the quality of the audio impact how much you assess the quality of the information, because Brett just really does share his journey quite openly, sharing some gold for you. If you're a beginner, then he shares some great insight for you. If you are actively selling and have plans to sell one of your brands one day, then he shares some of the journey that he's on in positioning his brand for sale. Honestly, just packed with real life helpful information from a down-to-earth guy who just wants to help see you succeed. So without further ado, let's get into it. Awesome. Well, welcome to the Brand Builder Show. Brett, it's great to have you on today. Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
It's going to be great to dig into your story, Brett, about how you've really just come on that journey over the last few years of being very, very new to selling on Amazon, making that journey all the way through to an exciting phase of your journey where you're actually looking at selling one of your brands, which is a topic we're going to dig into in this episode. So super excited to dive into that with you. But before we do, why don't you just introduce yourself, tell everyone listening a little bit about your background, where you came from and how you came to find out about selling on Amazon. Tell us a bit about that.
Traditionally, I come from a software sales background, but that didn't really have any influence on how I landed up running my own Amazon brands. It was more a case of wanting to do something for myself, wanting to work for myself, and wanting to get off the motorways and the endless long hours and journeys and everything, and actually be present for the family. Yeah. Be able to do the school runs and take the dog a walk with the kids and just be around, be present. So that was my motivation really.
Yeah, that's
for
good,
doing it. So I started off thinking, right, okay, what sort of thing can I do that will give me that? So, e-commerce business sort of, that springs to mind as being the most sort of instant fix for that. So then I started looking at, well, what are my options with that? Started looking at Shopify, but quickly realised, and this was sort of concreted from, barbecue chat with my friends when I was saying, look, I'm not getting no one's coming to my Shopify site. What am I doing wrong? What do you guys do? And they were, well, we all shop on Amazon because we can get next day delivery. Right. Okay. I need to find out more. How can I need to learn how I can set up an Amazon business then. And then I started doing research on, setting up your own private label.
Yeah.
And spent hours and hours, evenings and evenings on YouTube, cramming, learning as much as I could, sitting up till, starting after, work, dinner, sitting down at 8 o'clock, working till midnight, just learning and absorbing as much as I could. And then tapping into content from the likes of yourself, for example.
And how long ago was it that you started the journey?
So that was summer of 2019.
Okay.
And then by the start of Q4 2019, myself and my business partner, we'd managed to launch our first products for our first brand.
Yeah.
So that was just going into Q4 2019, and as you know, Q4 is ridiculously busy for e-commerce, especially on Amazon.
Yeah. How did you find it? What were the emotions like when you went through that sort of busy period, making your first sales? Describe that for us.
Well, it was a baptism of fire because it was just one of the products we'd chosen. It comes in season Q4 as well, so sales went from nothing to a lot very quickly.
That's a great feeling.
Fantastic feeling, and I remember being out with friends, out for a meal, and sort of secretly refreshing my seller app under the table and watching the sales go up, and every 10 minutes just going yes.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember my first Q4 and having a first. It was actually in Germany, having like a €3,000 day or something ridiculous. And I was so new to it, thinking like this is just insane. And I was doing the same. My mum was visiting, refreshing the app, and every time I refreshed it, a unit more. I was like, this is impossible.
Yeah.
There's something wrong. This can't be happening. So it's an amazing feeling, eh?
It was, and you just wanted it to almost go ka-ching every time you refreshed as well.
Yeah, it's it. The Shopify app actually has that
it does,
notification, but the Amazon one doesn't, which is a shame.
Yeah, it does. With me trying Shopify before, I sort of experienced that, and I was thinking, oh, that'd be great.
It would be, yeah.
Ka-ching,
ka-ching, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, good stuff, exciting times. And so then over the last couple of years, you really built up, in particular one brand, which we'll sort of dive into the journey a bit more, where you're going with that. What's that been like the last couple of years, because it's a time in e-commerce where e-commerce has grown, but there's also been a lot of challenges around. How have you found that transition as a, full-time employee to now full-time entrepreneur? Talk to us a bit about that last couple of years.
There's been massive challenges, really, because I went from starting the business and hitting a product, fortunately, that got off the ground very quickly, started selling very, very quickly. The challenges that presents then are pretty obvious to a new business in managing your cash flow.
Yeah.
Because you're forecasting, well, maybe we'll do this amount of growth, but really you don't know until you've got the thing launched. It is a bit of a stab in the dark. And then all of a sudden you're scratching your head thinking, wow, there's all this extra money, cash that I need to support this growth.
How did you overcome that in the early days?
Early days was a case of going to friends, family and saying, would you mind helping out? It's easier to say with hindsight and easy to recommend now that, with anything like this, when you're going into it, I thought I'd got sufficient cash flow reserves. You think you do, but if you get something that really takes off, then you can either ride that and go with it or go, okay, I'll just go with what I forecast cash flow and have to accept that I'm out of stock of this until I get more in, and I can only order 1,000 instead of 2,000 of them.
Yeah. Did you face any major stock up periods?
We did have, stages where we were maybe out of stock for a couple of weeks. Nothing major.
Nothing too major, yeah. Okay.
What really hit us was going into COVID.
Right. Okay.
Because using Chinese manufacturers, of course, they went into lockdown with that first of all. So the factories all shut. That then coincided with Chinese New Year holiday as well. And then by the time we were out of that, of course, the rest of the world was starting to move into various stages of lockdowns.
Yeah.
So you couldn't get new stock made, and then you couldn't get it shipped over.
Yeah.
And then you haven't then you've got no stock, so you haven't got any sales. And very soon you've got problems in terms of cash flow.
Yeah, most manufacturers came back online sort of within 4 to 6 weeks. Hey, did you feel the knock on of that? Did that cause you then stock outs because of that period where they were out of action?
It put us out of action for when the point that we needed to order, bearing in mind we'd only got 2 products at the time.
Okay.
One product which was due to come into season, sort of spring season, we just couldn't get any stock of delivered to UK until the July.
Right. Yeah.
So we were totally stuck with that.
But you've obviously managed to navigate that and come through the other side, and no negative effects in the long term for the business.
We made the decision to just pull our cash reserves, carry on with things, get some more products launched. The beauty of what we've got set up with the brand and the niche that we decided to go for was that there was opportunity to introduce fresh products all within one brand, all within this sort of one umbrella, and then the opportunity there to offer them in different sizes, different colours, different variations. And that's what we've sort of built the brand around. And then also thinking of other approaches to getting stock in or to offering products. So if you can't, for example, if you can't physically afford to get something manufactured, shipped over, there may be other options like print on demand, for example.
Yeah, definitely. I think this, the shipping challenges that we're facing now in 2021 are making everyone have to sort of think more flexibly like that. What type of products can I look? It doesn't have to just be physical products or, the traditional private label is definitely, and that's where I think you've nailed it. Building that more cohesive brand is such an important aspect of that, right? Because if you were just selling a load of random products, it would be very hard to introduce, different type of products. Whereas if those type of products are, aligned with your brand, it just becomes much easier to pivot.
Yeah. And off the back of taking that approach, for example, we managed to launch product in March of this year. Within 3-4 months, it was #1 bestseller in the category.
Awesome.
And is now.
Perfect.
We're just #1 in that category for that product.
Yeah.
And that was all about being smart. It's all very well having a brand and a product range that targets a particular niche, but thinking about what's my opportunities for products within that niche, but then how can I improve on what's already there? Make a difference. Yeah. How can I offer extra value, fix a problem? So, always, like I'd recommend to anyone, if you're looking at possible products, thinking of ideas, always think about what the problem is. What's that product trying to fix? Are there any problems with that product? Have a look through, say, the bad reviews.
Yeah.
Are there any underlying themes there for existing products that you can think of a solution to?
Yeah, great tips.
Yeah.
No, that's really good.
And again, don't just think of, as you mentioned, I must have something made, overseas cheaply, ship it in, that model. Think about digital products. Think about things that could be made, here in the UK.
Yeah,
because there's, a lot of value in the made in UK brand as well, and and also regional products, for example, Welsh traditional products, Scottish products, Irish products. So thinking about that and going to the sort of home produced items, because then you get rid of those shipping problems in your business as well, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, that's good. Real good tips. Obviously, differentiation is so key, and that's obviously been something that's helped you stand out, in competitive markets, and that's what's helping you, really grow the business, which is exciting. You mentioned before you're looking to sell this first brand. Can we sort of talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that and that journey? It's quite a hot topic in the sort of Amazon FBA space at the moment. Lots of, aggregators out there looking to buy businesses. I got a cold mail piece, physical mail. I don't get much physical mail these days, but through my door the other day from Thrasio, wanted to buy businesses, and so they're clearly really keen to
Yeah.
buy brands like yours, right? And so you are sort of getting towards a season where you're going to be getting that brand ready to sell. Talk us through what's made you make that decision that you want to sell this brand.
My whole goal from this was to create a lifestyle for myself where I wasn't sort of tied to the desk and spending more time with families. So actually my approach has been to build and look at brands and product niches where I can maybe have a dozen SKUs. There's potential to add more and build out, but that requires, economies of scale, things that I don't have. Do I want to do that? I could go and build a bigger, business with employees and everything else, but that would be going back to what I was moving away from.
Yeah, right.
So my whole goal has been to, set up a brand, build it to a certain size where there's that opportunity to take the next step.
Yeah.
And do that. And in the meantime, as I'm doing that, be thinking and working on my next brand so I can set up this little conveyor belt of brand businesses that I can do that 2-year journey with them.
Sure.
Get them to that point where they're ready to scale.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. Move that on. And then, I can recycle that money into my next brand, my next project, and, think about my retirement as well.
That's it. I mean, it's interesting actually, because I think some people would take a different approach and think I want to grow it as big as I can and make big money for it. But it's a different and quite unique approach, which I like. Because it helps you take some money off the table, right, for all of your hard work. You can use the principles that you've built over time to then roll that back in and do the same process again. So it's an interesting approach. How did you sort of get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm ready now? Was it a monetary figure you had in mind, a valuation of your business? What's helped you get there?
Good question. So I was approached about this time last year,
okay,
by a reasonably well-known aggregator. Made an approach. We had initial discussions, and I knew myself at the time the brand wasn't big enough for me to get the value out of it that I wanted. There was still a lot that I wanted to do to get it to the turnover that I want, for it to have actual proper value. You start thinking, how much do I want to be turning over per month? What are my targets in terms of that? And what does that look like in terms of end valuation for the business?
Yes.
And then are there other things I can do while I'm doing all of this that are going to add more value in the acquisition? So that's about setting your product range up so that you can maybe offer a couple of extra SKUs in maybe a couple of sizes extra in different colours. But then that's got the potential to add more colours and more sizes and what have you. So, about painting the picture in the brand by showing them what they could have.
For sure, and that's a big part of what's going to help you get a good valuation, right? Is showing the growth potential, but also it's on an upward curve. You never want to sell something on a downward trend because it's going to be less attractive for a buyer, right? Yeah,
that's quite a careful bit of timing as well, because you don't want to squeeze out all of the possible growth opportunities yourself out of something, because then there's no value in it for the next person.
Yeah, for sure. And so you're looking at Q1 2022. That's when you're going to sort of package this up ready to sell. So only a few
Yeah.
months away.
Yeah, just a few months away. And, in terms of process and what I'm going to be going through with it, I'm very much heads down at the moment, Q4 focused, making sure that we've got all the stock in place that we need to support the, onslaught of sales we're expecting.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I know that sales will still be carrying through strongly for me for sort of January into February.
Yeah.
But at that point, if I, looking to engage the people I'm going to be using to broker the deal, then that could all be done. My understanding of the process is it can all be done within 3 or 4 months from that time point, as long as you've got certain things in place in your business. So what I mean by that is, are you using QuickBooks or Xero? Are you using proper accounting system? Are you using stuff like Link My Books to help streamline processes? They'll be looking that, having processes and systems in place within your business helps with clarity of information and getting all the data together when they're trying to look at numbers for valuing, getting a valuation for the business. So it gives clarity, speeds up the process, but also using tools like Helium 10, for example, and follow up software, automation software, having making sure I've got my social media presence all running, all that sort of stuff, making sure that's all in place, because then that makes the proposition a lot more attractive.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's going to help you with your, sell for a higher multiple, right? It's not just about the value of the, the turnover, but it's how much of a multiple can you achieve for that, when you come to sell it.
Yeah, exactly. And, what else can I do to affect that multiple in the meantime? Well, I used to sell in Europe before Brexit.
Okay.
I used the pan EU model. So just stored my inventory in the UK and let Amazon deal with it. And that was really, really lovely way of managing things for me. Obviously with Brexit, I'm now waiting for my VAT registration for Germany.
Okay.
Because I want to just put a couple more products back into Germany. And if I do that before we look at the valuation, then that's another step that shows value and growth in the business that I can do relatively risk-free this side, but is going to present significant upside to anyone who looks at buying the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you talked about the process of using a broker or that kind of thing. Did you what's your thought process with how you're actually going to go about placing your business on the market to sell? Have you looked at different options, different sort of parties involved in that? What's your thought process there?
I've looked at who's out there, who's available in terms of brokers and direct aggregators. As I mentioned, I was approached a year ago, so I started digging into things a year ago on it and looking around and seeing who was about. I think whoever you choose, it's about feeling comfortable with them, that you can do business with them, that they are going to try and understand your brand, your business, and that they're working in your best interests, not just working it on the other side.
Yeah. But it should be relatively incentivized for them, right? Because I imagine with a broker, it's going to be a percentage sort of fee, and so they'll be incentivized to get you the best possible price, eh?
Yeah, they are very much. But it's how much advice and help can they give you on the way? Can they talk you through the things that I've just mentioned, like moving into other markets, adding additional variations to your SKUs, things like that you can do within your business quite sort of risk free, but again, as I said, add that value for the next step.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so so I would say, look for anyone that you're getting that sort of advice and guidance from. They're supporting your business, even if you don't then go on and go through with selling your brand.
Yeah,
you'll have learned how you can add more value to your business anyway.
absolutely. And I always say that, even if you never sell, it's better to build it as if you're going to sell it, because it'll be a much more streamlined, profitable business. So I think that's definitely great thoughts there. In terms of like inspiring people that maybe just starting out, that are wondering about e-commerce and on the beginning stages of it. Obviously, you've been on the journey now, a couple of years, 2019, 2021. It's only 2 short years, really. I don't know how comfortable you feel in terms of numbers and, what you're trying to achieve and stuff like that. But, is this going to be a life-changing kind of sum for you, or, talk about as much as you're willing to talk about, or for as little as you. I get it's a sensitive topic and a sensitive time. So
it will be money that will mean that I can sit back for a couple of years with money in the bank, have enough money to set up another brand or two as I wish, another couple of projects, and be comfortable not needing to take any money from anywhere else, to draw salaries from anywhere else. So my other brands that I'm setting up at the moment, and also have money to put into investments as well.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
It's in a space of 2 years to be able to have created something that could do that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is, mate. It's an absolutely brilliant job, and congratulations. I'm super excited for you. But you're obviously, by the sounds of it, pretty bullish on the whole opportunity, because you're continuing to put your money into it. When there are, let's not beat around the bush. There are lots of people around that will say, "Oh, it's hard, it's saturated. There's no products to sell." What is it that makes you keep coming back and say that you're going to keep starting new brands?
If you think of what are you trying to do to achieve money, growth, wealth? What are your different sources? What types of business would you look to do to set up your if you like, your 4 tiers of your hierarchy of assets that you want to hold as a person? And it's the ultimate cash flow generator, really. It's sales every day, payments from Amazon every fortnight into your bank. So that's a cash flow business for you. Off the back of that, you can move that into your other assets in your hierarchy, can't you? Where you're looking to property and moving on from there. So it forms that nice tier of that structure for me personally. So it makes it very attractive. What else would I be doing to have a cash flow generating business? Well, you could go into property development and do rentals, something like that. But actually, that has its own set of complications and everything else anyway.
Sure.
And I think after 2 years of it, although Amazon tried to throw lots of complications at you all the time, you get used to being thrown issues to deal with. But you know what? It's how you dealing with those issues is the difference between the people that are going to have a business and the people that stop and go, "Oh, I can't overcome these problems." And doesn't matter what type of business it is, actually, you've got to be able to overcome those problems, those issues, and fix them, as a business owner. So, everyone's aware of, and has problems with Amazon support occasionally. But it's one of those challenges that you've got to, you work through. It comes with the territory, just like it does with, challenges with shipping, delays, increasing costs, whatever. You find other ways of doing things. You find other solutions.
Definitely.
But so no matter the detractors, what I'm trying to say is it is still a fundamentally a good business opportunity to get into.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. And in terms of preparing a business for sale, if you are maybe speaking to someone that's sort of at the middle of their journey, they're generating revenue, you talked to us about some of the things like tidying up the books and all that kind of stuff. Is there anything tactically, strategically in the business over the last year that's helped you see that growth that's then made it more of an attractive proposition? You know, what are maybe a couple of things that someone could do if they are wanting to get to that stage of being able to sell a business as well themselves, that they could really deploy in their business now to prepare them for that?
Yeah, so make sure, for example, you have if you don't fancy doing the accounts and the books yourself, then get yourself a bookkeeper.
Mm.
Make sure you've got a decent online accounting system.
Yeah.
Make sure you're using integrations like Link My Books to streamline all those processes, because that gives you clarity of information. If you've got up-to-date financial information on your business, then you don't have to worry about collating yourself. You've just got to check because you're using a bookkeeper. You can focus on all the other stuff that you need to do as a business owner.
Yeah, definitely.
And you've got that clear insight into the finances on the business, because cash flow is king with an Amazon business. You've got to keep the stock coming constantly. You've got to manage that cash flow because you've got your production lead times, shipping lead times.
And talk to us a little bit how you do manage that, Brett, because you mentioned before about how you don't want to go back to like the big, corporate environment, whatever. But so are you still doing all of this on your own? Do you have a team helping you? What's your setup there?
There's myself and my business partner. He works full time. So,
okay.
In terms of the day-to-day managing the business, it's me.
Yeah, great.
And besides, I said, having a bookkeeper, having accountants, having online accounting systems and bits and pieces, then, I use Helium 10. That is really, really useful.
Yeah, definitely.
Make good use of the profits module there, and also, product sales analysis.
Mm-hmm.
That's great information that you've got right at your fingertips. And there's so much more, as you know, in terms of competitor research. So
absolutely.
Organic, sponsored, rankings, performance on keywords, all that key information. So using tools like that streamlines all that process for me.
Yeah.
So it means I can manage all of that myself rather than having someone else doing all that keyword research, the PPC work, everything else.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the system of Amazon as well, right? They do so much of the work for you that allows you to focus on the marketing and growth.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then I just need to worry about staying in stock.
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge for most Amazon sellers, staying in stock. It's a good problem to have, but can be a bit stressful at times.
Yeah, definitely.
No, good. And I know I've sort of asked a similar question already, but just in terms of, I know there'll be people that are listening and haven't yet started on this journey. What would be your advice for them? It's easy for people to think, well, he's got it all together, he's got it all sorted, and it's all easy for Brett because he's a pro at this, right? But at one stage you weren't, So speak to your 2019 self and give them your best sort of advice for getting started.
I would say, absolutely make sure that you've got twice as much money in the bank as you think you'll need to get started.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah.
You're laughing at that. You clearly empathise with it as well. So, it's because you will need that money because, as I mentioned, the challenges with production lead time, shipping lead times, making sure you stay in stock. And if you really have aspirations of growing a brand, getting to a point where the business can support you financially, so you can take that step from the day job to this being your job, then you've got to have worked out what cash flow you are going to need to get to that point? How many products do you need to launch? What sales numbers do you need to achieve to make that step? And have that clear vision. When I hit this number of units of sales of these SKUs, then my cash flow says that the business will support me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really
at that point, don't carry on working some more if you can, and leave as much money in the business as you can for as long as you can.
Yeah, it's really good advice.
Because that will fuel your further growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good advice, especially the reverse engineering. I think that's so powerful to, bring it back to what you're trying to achieve and break it down. Because, and what I like about your journey, Brett, and what you've talked about is the long-term nature of it. Although 2 years, right, is not like a long time, but at the same time, you've been someone who hasn't been desperate to get loads of money out of it straight away, but you recognize that if you can keep plowing money back into the business, you've got this opportunity, which in what other industry can you launch a business and 2 years later be selling it for a tidy sum? It's crazy, right? But you've the only reason that's been possible for you is because you have kept plowing the money back in. And I'm a firm believer, it's the long term aspect. And I do laugh when you say, have twice as much money. I'm a firm believer in, you want to get started and you'll find ways to get that money as you go. And don't wait until all conditions are perfect, because they'll never be completely perfect. But the reality is you will. Yeah, you'll need more capital to grow if you want to grow fast, because like you said, it's a cash intensive business. But when you look at that 2-3 year journey, there's so much opportunity as you're about to sort of literally see play out right in front of you. So it's exciting. January, February time, everything's gonna change. Hey, it's gonna be an exciting stage for your journey.
Yeah, it's really exciting actually, and that I'm thinking I'm already trying to fight the temptation of kicking back and thinking what I'm going to do next.
Go on a few holidays, yeah. No, the exciting journey, man. And I think, as I said to you off recording, I'd love to, once that has happened, get you back on the show and talk through what the process was like, because I know there'll be probably more questions created from this episode than answered, because people are just really keen to hear about this kind of journey. It's an exciting one that you're on.
Yeah, well, like I said, sort of off camera, I'm happy to, if anyone wants to get in touch directly, maybe through yourself, happily chat through with anyone, any questions they've got on my experience. And I did your training. Yes, I did, and I'm on your YouTube channel recording this interview, but I'm happy to talk sort of candidly about training and my self-learning process that I went through on this journey as well, and what I needed to be able to do what I've done.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just to sort of round up, I suppose, what do you think was essential for you on that? Because you talked about that phase that a lot of people get it stuck in, I suppose, is just information overload. What was it that sort of switched it for you? What were some of the key things that you really did to take it from information to execution?
Well, I think for me, I was already highly motivated to make it happen.
Yeah, so important.
So for me, I'd made that decision. The trigger had gone. I flipped the switch in my head and gone, I'm going to do this because I want to have that. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do the day job anymore.
Yeah.
That switch had flipped. So I was ready to take action. And, as in all things, sometimes, if you're struggling to think of the first products and you've got so many things that you're thinking about and trying to decide, what if I go for this target audience or that niche or that niche?
Yeah.
Quite often, rely on your gut instinct. Quite often, the first thing that you take a liking to or catches your eye and stands up to that initial look at, that's quite often the first thing. Yeah, and at some point you've got to take that step and you've got to have confidence. If you're going to be a business owner, you've got to have confidence in your decision making.
Yes, it's true.
So you've got to get used to making those decisions from day one if you're going to do this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you learn so much more by doing than just learning, right?
You do. Yeah.
When you actually step out and do it, it's amazing what can happen. So, and you know, you're evidence of that, Brett. So I just want to say, well done for taking action, mate, and super excited for the next 6 months to see where it goes. And looking forward to having you back on and sharing about all of the details of how it all went down. And really excited for that too.
Excellent.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for your time, Ben.
Amazing. What a time we had with Brett. I hope you enjoyed that conversation we had there. I felt like that was part one of, definitely a multi-part series with Brett that we can have him back on after Q4, after sort of January, February, once he goes through the process of selling his brand, and we can dig for some juicy details of how it all went and the progress of it, and, how that all played out. That will be amazing. So I can't wait for that. If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure you do subscribe on whichever podcast platform that you are listening on. Please do take the time to give us a review. It really does help. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe there too. We'll be back next week with another great episode of the Brand Builder Show, helping Amazon sellers become brand builders so that you can build a brand you own and a life that you love. All right, I'll see you in next week's episode.